Now on this video, I'd like to show through photos and through video how my layout, which is now 27 years old, how it evolved over the years, right from the beginning. It's an interesting story of, in part of my life, that I've had many layouts that were in the cellar of the house, a shelf layout that was in a bedroom, but this attic area became actually half of the square footage of the house became available, and my son moved out of the house, and I decided I would really do this right if I possibly could. I started with a beautiful table that Mike Kajeski helped me make. I got some brand new Mike's Train House equipment, Gargraves track, Phantom track, Ross switches, the whole thing. And I started laying out from basically my mind's eye how I wanted to have this layout evolve. I had to make a decision early on how big to make the layout. This is a T-shaped room, 18 by 18, that was available. I needed to leave some space for chairs, and so when friends came over, we could sit and enjoy the layout. I wanted to make mountains that if I didn't like them, they'd be very easy to remove off the layout. And for other reasons, if I wanted to expand the layout, I had the possibility I might want to do that at the future. So I thought the way I would do them was with styrofoam, and I had done this on previous layouts, did the carving and all the messy work outside or in the shop, and did all the plaster work and in a confined area that was very easy to work on. And when I had it finalized, I just moved it up into the layout room and in one piece. And now that can be removed off the layout very easily if I want to. That was one of the features I wanted to have. Painting the backdrops I did so many times that I really got sick of doing it. But it worked out well in the construction of this layout. And I want to just describe and show, in between running the trains, some of the other details that I made. Now, I had a lot of passenger trains in my collection. I wanted to add more, and I wanted to have a passenger station somewhere on the layout. It was a little funny trying to figure out exactly how to do that. I wanted to run trains at night so I could see the passenger cars with the lighting in them. I detailed out the passenger cars with 100 people, and as I figured out how to do this, I thought, well, the T part of the layout would become the passenger area. I wanted to add a lake so I could see trains reflecting as they went by. I had a collection of old trains and new trains at this point in time. I wanted to use them both, and I wanted to be able to add to it in the future, of course. But the pillars on the station are from a wedding cake, and so that worked out pretty nicely. I could display some of my car collection. This was not the final product, but it was along the way to detailing it out. And one of the things I did again was the people in the passenger cars. I spent a lot of time adding the details. Now, I wanted the roads and the parking lots and all of the area that normally would be paved on a layout to be as realistic as possible. I wanted it to be three-dimensional too. I just didn't want to paint the roads on. And so what I did, I used foam to raise them up, make them three-dimensional, and balsa wood to make a skin for the top, and then airbrushed in all the final details after the roads were made. This is where the factory was ultimately going to be. And I wanted to have a parking lot. I wanted to have some details, cars that were being worked on And this, as this whole thing evolved, I was doing it every day. I would change it a little bit, make something different. Where the tracks crossed, I wanted that to be realistic, not be just that it wasn't level with the tracks like a prototypical road would be. It was very time consuming to do it. And I did a lot of back and forth, and after the roads were airbrushed in and the roads are absolutely level with the top of the rails, and I got to use some of my extensive car collection, which I really treasure, these little cars. They add so much to the layout. All of the work I put into this was worth it in the end. Now the lakes on this layout, there's 3 lakes, and I wanted to make them in a spot that from the viewing points where you would view the layout, when a train went by, especially at night, that when the passenger trains go by, you would see the reflection in the lake. And it turned out that the way the layout evolved, all 3 of the lakes reflect the trains as they go by, and I think that's really nice. And it's really nice when you run passenger trains at night. But you see it all the time. And the weeds growing along the edge of the lakes, I made a lot of effort to make the lakes look realistic. They don't just end at like a sidewalk, they end gradually into shallow water where the color changes. And again, the best part of all is, and I like doing this, my grandson really enjoys it. You see when it's all lit up at night here, there's passenger trains in the back running, passenger trains in the front. It just adds a nice little dimension that you don't expect until you actually see it in real life. And one of the things I incorporated into this room when I did the lighting in the room, it's all variable and it's all on a dimmer switch, so you can make it anything from midnight to totally dark to just coming up dawn. And I do love running the passenger trains at night. I don't know what there is about that, and especially when they reflect in those lakes, I think that's so realistic. Now, because I competed in control line model aviation my whole life, I really wanted to have a control line flying field on this model railroad. And it was a lot more complicated than I originally thought it would be. Carlos Serra came to the rescue. He made a little rotating piece that went in the middle of the circle so that it would rotate at exactly scale speed using a VCR motor of all things and batteries. So when he finished that, then the landscaping, of course, and many of my friends carved up little models. Some people donated some special cars, among other things here. And I wanted to make this, I did the bleachers with a lot of people in there watching the action. And I wanted this to be one of the focal points of the layout. And believe it or not, and I'm very happy with the way it worked out, now, there are 4 videos out on the channel, if you do a search, of building the layout, building it and going through all the little processes. This is just how it evolved. Now, it evolved from having a chimney. We had to build a table around a chimney. We had to figure out, at one point in time, I was going to make this a giant passenger station, and I wasn't comfortable with that for a lot of reasons. And then I decided to make it a big factory warehouse type of building. I molded up all the windows myself. I made the little loading dock on the side, added a lot of people, made the parking lot super detailed, using up a lot of little tricks that I learned in the years of making layouts myself. And it got I think, so successful. Several people have been here and been looking at the layout and the trains run for 3/4 of the night before they realized, oh, that's a chimney. So I guess that was successful. So if you don't look all the way up at the ceiling, if you only look 3 feet up off the layout, you don't really even notice that it's a chimney. But we managed to bury that, and as the trains go by, you're not inclined to look up at the ceiling anyway. But I thought that was one of the best disguised features and nice little details of actually of the whole layout. Now, another little detail, as well as having the trains reflect in the one big lake in the middle of the layout, I wanted to make what I call the boat works. At some point in my life, I was into water skiing. I owned a couple of boats, and I got a mold of a little boat. I made a mold and made I think a couple dozen boats, and they're on every one of the lakes. And that detail, it's right in the middle of the layout, and it kind of is a focal point. I like seeing it from a lot of different angles. When the trains are running, you can look from one angle, look right down the street. You see the boats in the back, the boats in the front, some in storage. I love having the cars on the main road there. Even from the back of the layout, when you look forward, the back lake is a dropout feature, so you can get back there and view the trains and shoot video from the back. But from every angle, and there's even people along the rocks. Very, very detailed. And one thing I really wanted to have was realistic tunnel portals. And I was real careful to do this. I wanted the ballasting and the tunnel walls to continue through the whole tunnel. I knew I'd be shooting video from low angles, taking pictures from low angles where you might see a light reflection. I didn't want to look in there and see an unfinished area. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And in the end, some of the video I've shot and some of the pictures I've taken have proven to be, that was very worth my effort to do that. And over the years, I've added some GoPro cameras, thank you to Najat, to the layout, which we use from making our weekly video. And I just think that's one of the key features of the layout, and something I really like are the tunnels. Now, a unique feature that I made from scratch was the coal unloader, kind of like the Lionel accessory, and a lot of the coal bins that are in the coal yard. In fact, if you look around the layout, if you're visiting the layout, you look around, there's just a lot of stuff made out of balsa wood. Because of building model airplanes my whole life, I had a bunch of balsa wood, and it's easy to make things from balsa wood. Well, just like basswood or any wood like that. I made a lot of the little loading areas, unloading areas. The little boxes are made out of balsa wood, the little crates that would normally be being unloaded into a boxcar. And a lot of the little details. There's a lot of people on the layout. I used to buy 100 at a time, hand paint them, and they're just everywhere. And one of the things people notice right away, and we kind of laugh about it, the roof, actually the siding and everything, all balsa wood. And various grades of sandpaper to make that overhang, but just a lot of balsa wood on this layout. the thing that's taken the most amount of time of all is the little details you don't really see until you come visit the layout. As an example, all of the cars have people in them. Some have 3 and 4 people, the convertibles. Some of the boats, they're very detailed. I even made oars for the boats carved and out of balsa wood. And some of the boats I turned into sailboats, among other things. There's birds on the layout. I've had pet birds my whole life, and I've incorporated that into one of the details that I enjoyed doing. All of the molded parts, like the windows on the big factory, I've enjoyed the molding of parts, and it's very, very easy to do. And I may make a separate video on how I did it in the past using molding rubber. Very, very easy to do. And all of the little model airplane details around the field, there's even toolboxes. And the planes are very detailed. And by the way, thank you to everybody who contributed planes. Another little detail I spent a lot of time on, was detailing out the rails. I've always wanted to have the rails be as prototypical as possible. I used Gargrave's Phantom Track, and all the tunnel portals. I was real fussy about getting it as accurate as I could, and it seems to show up well in all of the video that I have shared so far. And we'll just end this video with a couple of minutes of enjoying watching the trains run. And the whole reason I built this layout, and it has served me well again. 27 years, I'm 80 years old, and I still enjoy running trains as often as I can. If you have some trains that need upgrading or repairing, there's only one place to go, the Train Doctor. They buy, sell, and repair trains, and they're great to do business with. I've done business with them many years. And thank you so much to Roger Karp and the crew at Classic Toy Trains for featuring our layout in the magazine when it was relatively new. We've changed it a bit since then. Now, if you're new to our channel, we have over 3,000 videos. You can sort out all of the O-gauge ones very conveniently by using the playlist feature on the main YouTube screen. That will allow you to get to all of the O-gauge videos very, very conveniently. And there are many of them, including building the layout, showing how we do some of our videography. I've done videoing since 1987, and maybe some tips on building a layout that you can use. So I hope you did enjoy the video, and if you did, please take a second or two and hit the like button. And one and all, thank you so much for supporting the channel. We appreciate your support, and one and all, thank you so much for watching.